Welcome everyone to another video here for an astrological look at the Saturn transit through Aries. And so this is one of the videos I've been trying to get created and going. I was trying to do it before the advent of Saturn moving into Aries back on May 24th of 2025. But here we are today as of June 16th, 2025. But it's before the upcoming, really the major part of the Saturn-Neptune conjunction period and the bulk of the Saturn-Aries transit in 2026 through the first 3.5 months of 2028. So there's a lot to talk about with this, and there'll be a separate video specifically about the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, although the connection between my Neptune Aries video and this is pretty strong. So I'll be doing something in the next few weeks that really highlights the Saturn-Neptune conjunction and puts it into a greater summary here than what I'm going to share here. Although towards the end of the video, there will be some significant things I'll share about the Saturn-Neptune conjunction period, which is already taking off right now, and we're seeing some of the major ramifications and expressions of it in the month of June here, especially in recent days and weeks. All right, well, let's get into this. So this is covers the 2025 through 2028 period of Saturn Aries. It's not fully in the sign of Aries the entire period of like this of 2025 to 2028. So I'll be highlighting that. I'll be giving all the dates to that to look at and to kind of just have an awareness of around that. All right, so let's take a look at this, and we're going to talk about just a brief look at Saturn, its basic definition, limits, laws, and boundaries and borders. We're going to also look at the archetype of Aries, previous Saturn Aries transits, a deeper dive a little bit into the previous two transits, one in the 90s and one in the 60s. The big Jupiter Saturn square, along with Jupiter squaring Neptune as well. That's something that is taking place as part of the Saturn Aries transit. So I highlighted that in the June video. So I'll mention it. There's not a specific slide about this, but I'll mention it as part of the overall expression of this and how important it plays, how important a role it plays in this video. Well, not, I mean this video, but this transit of Saturn Aries. The Alpha Omega point, definitely continuing to talk about that. Themes of Saturn Aries, and then preview of the Saturn Neptune conjunction. So that's all going to be part of this video. So let's talk about Aries first. This is also highlighting a little bit of the Alpha Omega point because the 29th degree of Pisces is the Omega, and then the 0 degree of Aries is the Alpha point. And so Aries really has this, of all the signs in the zodiac, that probably is the one that best represents that Alpha energy, and really is a powerful, fiery initiator in the world, and really wanting to go headlong into its mission and purpose. It's also an archetype that is highly reactive, strong-willed, and competitive. It's the defender of the cosmic order and the one who shows up to be front and center in helping those that are not able to help themselves. And this is done through instinctual actions, bringing to bear any talent, skills, and modalities that this sign can in a variety of situations. And so preparing for battle doesn't always mean necessarily doing violence to achieve goals. It's more about really the metaphor and also like stepping into a challenging situation that you know that you want to fight for, such as like perhaps a courtroom or fighting for someone's life in the operating table, or stepping in and helping those in, that are needing help in a variety of ways. Like they need to find a home for themselves. Maybe They need an advocate for themselves. Maybe maybe it's a certain sporting event and they're out there competing to help the team out as well. Um, and maybe it's like really helping to be a defender for a particular organization or a family and to step into that role as well. And it's not always, just about the military or being a soldier or a hero, but there's much more to it than that. Um, it's also, Aries can be really, really individualistic. It has the first sign of the zodiac as sort of the waking up of the individual itself as sort of the seasonal energy of the zodiac itself. And so Aries, can really represent that being certainly strongly related to the first house of the zodiac as well. Um, and so this is the energy that Saturn has moved into, is going to help awaken even more with along with Neptune. And we got a bit of a preview of a lot of different things around Aries back in February, March, and April, with and to some degree May, with both Mercury and Venus going back and forth between Pisces and Aries and that alpha omega point. And then at the end of March, in the middle of all that, Neptune moved into the sign of Aries. So we're having a really, really strong and potent expression of Aries for 2025. So Saturn, on the other hand, has a lot there that is not so much about Aries by itself. It is about this growth through limits and boundaries. It's on a personal level. We can experience Saturn's influence through hitting up against boundaries and limits and borders and walls. And sometimes those walls invite resistance and efforts to dismantle them, including on a collective level. But it can also invite in like a step back and going, looking at the landscape and going, okay, what do we do in this? We're reaching this point of the wall, and it's not just about using force to punch through, but to maybe find another way to work with that wall in such a way where it can be more constructive instead of using, um, violent energy to overcome, which could end up making things worse. However, sometimes it's a little necessary to break down a wall in order for things to be liberated. And Saturn, even though it's well known to be about borders and boundaries and walls, it's also, in a long term, it's like growth through them. So, which can include like the timing of like, okay, the wall does now need to be dismantled, does need to be brought down to make room to plant the seeds for another energy for the long-term future. But then Saturn can also, in the shadow, especially when it could be kind of a sense of hardness and oppression and like too much excess rules and excess regulations and laws and things like that. And that can end up having a more harmful effect in the person, which can have a reaction either to be crushed or to wake up and to go beyond all the shadow of what Saturn can bring in too. It's all in how we react to it, how we work with it. Saturn by itself is not necessarily prejudice or bias towards one thing or another. It all depends on how we work with it and utilize it to the best of our ability. So Saturn can also help us focus in on the most critical of areas in our life and to work on following through and showing up and ultimately advancing our life forward. So Saturn is a really powerful helper in focusing on things. And yeah, it can take hard work. It could take a lot of investment of time, money, and energy, but there can be a long-term benefit to doing that, especially if we build a strong foundation for ourselves. Saturn also relates to personal, collective health, especially around the systems of the body and the health around economic and political, social political systems, anything that has to do with systems and structures, uh, and strong levels of organization. This is very Saturnian in its nature, government, and that kind of thing. So it really shows up really, really strongly. But it also has a strong element of like Capricorn around the circle of grandmothers and the sort of the ancient ancestral wisdom and knowledge that can be passed from one generation to the next. So there is a shade of Saturn that can help nurture that from generation to generation, and hopefully not just statically without any kind of growth, but something that actually can look at things in a broader view and have objectivity around that. So this is what Saturn can bring in on a healthy side as well. So Saturn's first ingress happened here on May 24th, 2025 at 8:35 p.m. Pacific. And we can see right here, it got within just under 2 degrees with Neptune at that time. Right now, uh, as the taping of this video here, Saturn is now within a degree of Neptune. So it's slowing down. Neptune's slowing down because they're both getting ready to go retrograde the first couple weeks of July. So something to be aware of as things kind of slow down and really get sort of intensified in the world out there. So you can see this highlighted right here. And one of the cool and incredible things that's happening with all of this is that we're experiencing like the beginnings, the next level beginning stages of this. Saturn and Neptune coming into the middle, they'll be represented in the middle of a trine between Pluto and Uranus, especially beginning in July and in August. They don't get exact in that, but they do get pretty close in that double sextile and trine energy. And so Pluto and Uranus are playing a significant role in Saturn Neptune's expression, a very unusual thing that wasn't going on back in 1989 when the last time Saturn and Neptune got together. Um, and in the 1990s when Saturn was in Aries as well. So the second ingress into Aries, so Saturn only stays in um, Aries for a little over 3 months until September 1st of 2025. And then it backs into Pisces. And then it'll be in Pisces all the way until February 13th of 2026. And at that point, that's going to set us up for a actual exact conjunction 1 week after Saturn's ingress into Aries a second time. That's on February 20th, 2026. So this is just the beginning stages of this Saturn and Aries process, and particularly the Saturn Neptune. And we're really getting into the starting to get deeper and deeper into the Saturn Neptune process that will culminate with the perfected uh, conjunction in February. And then they'll still be all of 2026 really has like Saturn and Neptune are going to be relatively close together for most of that year and even partly into 2027 as well. So we're still going to have a lot of Saturn Neptune energy even after the exact conjunction on February 20th, 2026. All right. So, and you can even see at that point, there's still sort of this Pluto has already moved on. It's starting to widen. The it's trying to Uranus or it's not really it's a little closer in, but then Uranus will really start to build up steam and move deeper into Gemini, and then you'll have another wave of that in the March, April, and May period of 2026 between um, Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus, with some Saturnian energy still present as well. All right, so the Alpha Omega time, the end start, or the start end. This really is this sort of this uh, turning of the wheel for society and moving into a paradigm shift. And again, a lot to do with this Saturn-Neptune conjunction period. And Saturn Aries in particular can be of great help to that. So Saturn will move back into a Pisces in September. It crossed over the 0 degree mark of Aries on May 24th, 2025. And then we'll hit the 29th degree again in February 2026. And Neptune does that earlier in January, and then into the 0 degree of Aries, which is where the conjunction between Neptune and Saturn will take place. So this spark of Aries can be volatile, and we've already seen quite a lot in the world, especially here in the US. We're also seeing a lot of activity between Iran and Israel and the continuing wars that are going on that have been happening. And I think it could certainly spark, there's this potential for sparking a wider conflict. Um, whether it be proxy wars that are happening and whatnot, like, and then with the unrest and the protests that are happening here and the crackdowns in the US, this is a really powerfully intense and uh, unique time, and it certainly echoes some of what happened in the 1960s, for example, and even with there was some political assassinations that were taking place also this past weekend. So there's a lot of volatility, a lot of challenges that we're having to face here, and to react in a way that's more healthy rather than the use of any kind of weaponry to as a way to react. Instead, we're using our voices, we're using our mind, we're using our spirit, we're using our ability to really speak our truth and come into the power. And that's part of what um, Saturn, Neptune, Aries really brings in, is that sense of like showing up and being seen and being heard and sharing your voice. So it's also a transition of a paradigm from one age to another age. This is part of a larger framework that this Alpha Omega time period is symbolizing right now. So previous transits of Saturn Aries, and we're going to cover just two of them in this video, the 1996 to 1998 period, as well as 1967 and 1969. There were three other ones prior to that, 1937, 1940, which was all in the start of World War II, 1908 to 1910, and then we also had 1878 to 1881. So there's a really, really strong energy around what Saturn Aries brings in, a lot of again, more volatility. And in traditional astrology, Saturn Aries isn't necessarily the best of bedfellows. So you might say from that perspective, it can testify to the challenges that we have ahead. Now, this is the only thing going on. We have Jupiter in Cancer that's been happening. There's some other planets that are helping to balance some of this volatile energy. But revolution and innovation, the kind of the greater sense of really starting something fresh and new, and kind of sparking what is really near and dear to us, and discovering our own mission and truth and purpose in this life as well. So 1998, I'm sorry, 1996 to 1998, the last time Saturn was in Aries. It was a highly unique period because we were still in this Uranus-Neptune conjunction period. It was still in the aftermath of that. And they actually conjuncted in 93. And then the two planets of Neptune and Uranus stayed within 10 degrees all the way back for about 11-year period from 1988 to 1989. And a lot of tech innovation and spiritual developments are rooted in this specific conjunction. So that was going on also in the background as Saturn moved into Aries for over 2.5 years. So during this time, there were like an increase of terrorism attacks and boundaries and borders going through significant changes. So the breakups of especially like in Eastern Europe and the former Yugoslavia and the territories that were breaking up there into different parts and some wars that were being fought over that territory and various other things. That was a great example of that. There was some rises of independent countries, including East Timor, for independence from Indonesia. Macau and Hong Kong officially became part of China. There was the scandal of Monica Lewinsky and with President Clinton's administration, and then there was, of course, the Kosovo War, which is again part of the former Yugoslavia. At the once the Soviet Union collapsed and formed into a different kind of government, a lot of their territories got separated from the Soviet Union, and so you're seeing this. This is goes that was seated back at the Saturn Neptune conjunctions in Capricorn from 1989 as well. And then 67 to 69, some of the things that were going on during this time, including political and social leaders, speaking out and passing away in shocking examples. We had major cultural revolutions during this time. There was also some really strong expansion of nuclear ambitions and the coming of the space race, including the landing of human beings on the moon, space technologies, anti-war and peace movements, all that Vietnam War stuff. That was like it really reached a powerful um, you know, moment in history in time during these years when Saturn was in Aries. There were other things going on too. We were still sort of in the zone of Uranus and Pluto conjuncting. We had some Chiron activity in during that time as well. That was really powerful. Also, at one point was conjunct Saturn. So there was really some really, really strong currents. And so then Saturn moves into Aries, and then that adds to the stronger currents too. So the Saturn Aries component overlapped some of the Uranus-Pluto conjunction period, which was from 1961 to 1969, with 1966, 67 being like the main years of that conjunction period. Also, something around specifically workers' rights. That's something that's also been a theme in recent years, not just in the US, but in other places are really coming into and being counted and not being a number. And I think that's part of this individualism rising to the surface that we're seeing here in 2025. And I think some of that energy will continue to show itself through these next few years as well. So we're also seeing massive geopolitical change. It's something I talked about in a previous video as well. So many astrologers are discussing what could be happening, also looking at what has taken place before, which I've been doing here, along with periods of Saturn, Neptune, or in Pisces and Aries together and separately. We've also seen massive shifts in the last year and the acceleration of that initiation, especially here in 2025. Geopolitical, labor, and social shifts, along with uprisings, as well as new visions coming from the unseen to being in a structure and form. And between the emerging trade war and the battle between sort of the rise of this greater awareness of individual rights, civil rights, and the kind of the defense of the Constitution here in the United States is really, really powerful. Freedom of speech and due process and all of that. And so this is something that is are really, really strong. And it could also be, at the same token, counter revolutionary movements that tries to suppress all of that. It tries to come in and oppress and suppress and for greater control. And that's also a very Saturnian type of activity that can show up there. Now we had the Saturn Jupiter square, the last square that took place on June 15th, 2025. And that was just on Sunday here in the world. And so it's an opportunity to know that to have that awareness that we are at this massive intersection, and that the seeds that were planted in that Saturn Jupiter conjunction back in 2020 or all are also sort of on this in this moment here. And there were some really powerful. It wasn't just the one moment where they conjuncted at zero air at zero Aquarius, which definitely is sextile the Saturn Neptune conjunction next year. It's not just that, but it's also this greater theme of really coming into a greater conscious awareness and like revolutionizing the structures and systems, this rebirthing of all of this. So all the massive change. It's the Saturn Jupiter square is the intersection that um, came in post Saturn Jupiter conjunction, and when they were conjunct in 2020, Pluto was also in the neighborhood too. There was the three-way gathering together in various parts of 2020, including in the first 3 or 4 months of 2020, and then more so also in the fall of 2020, um, which would be, of course, the spring in the southern hemisphere. But all of that is really it's moving toward a greater goal, greater awareness. And so this isn't just something transitory and something that's just like, oh, everything will calm down and there won't be any more chaos later. No, this is the stirring of all of this. It's going to take a while to settle this energy here. So just be prepared for more. But isn't it going to be chaotic every day or that everything's going to be bad every day? There's a lot of new stuff that's coming online to help us, help humanity, especially our conscious awareness and being able to take advantage of what we end up fighting for in this at this point in humanity's future, current time period and in the future. So more about Saturn's involvement with Neptune and Aries. So Saturn's role is one of assistance and manifestation of the formless or unseen into our third dimensional reality, and especially with Neptune's role here. Previous times that they were conjunct, we've uncovered the unseen secrets of DNA, early development of photography and film, spiritual structures, ideas and visions manifesting before our senses, can also lead to opportunities to see the idealisms and ideologies that shake the foundations of humanity. The two planets conjunct every 35 and a half years. On average, the last time they were conjuncted in Aries was 1703. But in Saturn opposed Neptune, 1862 and 1863, and prior to that, with again the Aries, when Neptune was in Aries in 1862 and 1863, Saturn was opposite that in Libra, and then prior to that in 1539 to 1540. So if you go back to those periods, you can find some threads, some themes, not the exact same thing, but because we're in a different historical context that we can follow and connect with and maybe uncover some additional insights for ourselves, for humanity. Um, and so the Saturn Aries period from 2025 through 2028, again, it's from May 24th, 2025 till September 1st. And then the larger period is a period of a little over, was that 26 months from February 13th, 2026 and to April 12th, 2028. On average, it's about 2.5-ish years that Saturn is in one sign, but the period can be the bulk of about a 3-year period and overall. So that we can connect into. So, that's more than just the exact amount, but the period, because Saturn moves back into Pisces, all the way back to about 25 degrees Pisces before shifting back at the end of November 2025 as it moves forward again through the later degrees of Pisces and into the sign of Aries. So, yes, this is something to just have a greater awareness of what's really happening here. We can also see that in the early years of the U.S. and the thick of the French Revolution years, Saturn was in Aries in 1790 to 1792 and was opposite Neptune and Libra in 1792 to 1793. All the while, Pluto was also in Aquarius, like it is now. So you go back to those years and you find again some common threads here. There is this great, greater consciousness awakening that's happening. And this sense of individual rights and civil rights and being human, and that we're more than just our national identity. We're more than just, quote, our race, that we have something beyond that binds us and connects us all together as human beings. And that's part of what I think is starting to rise up at a greater level this year and the years that will commence afterwards as well. The battles that are happening with immigration, not just here in the U.S., but what's happening, with immigration throughout the world and refugees coming from various countries into other countries in order to escape, more powerfully challenging conditions and, also for survival. Um, we're all human, and it's like, hey, let's help our brothers and sisters out there in the world. Let's help our fellow human beings out there in the world. What is our priorities here? So this is something that we're having to really decide here, and that it's there's no turning back the clock, if you will, back to the 1950s, the 1940s, the 1920s. This is We're here now, and it can only address this really volatile and challenging time by actually going through it, by actually stepping in and like, hey, we can't ignore this anymore. We have to face it. So that's what I've got for Saturn Aries. There's more to come with the Neptune Saturn conjunction period. I'll be outlining some other periods in history that, 1989 being a really powerful one. But there were other times where these two planets were conjunct that were really powerfully impactful for humanity. In fact, to get into like a really long explanation of that, I definitely recommend Chris Brennan's astrology podcast, and he did a multi-hour episode that you definitely want to take little chunks of over a period of time because he dives in very, very deeply into many Saturn-Neptune conjunctions over a period of many, many centuries. So him and Nick Dagan-Best did a lot of work in that, and I was inspired to kind of draw from that, but also to realize and honor them for the powerful research that they did and the people that helped them out as well. But so the more that we talk about things like this, the more that we could become aware and work with it consciously, and to help affect change that is beneficial to humanity and to Earth, and to really go forward into the world more strongly. So that's basically all I have for you today. You can find me at spiralnexus.com and on various social media channels, including this one, YouTube. Um, and you can find my collaborative work that I do with Caitlin Castell at mystaralchemy.com. And I'm a professional astrologer, so you can book astrology readings with me if you want to learn astrology, and I'm happy to do that too. I teach the night sky and events and astrocartography, and you can email me at inspiralnexus@gmail.com or send me a message uh, through other social media outlets as well. So take care, everyone, and there'll be more to come.